I'm sorry, did we know that Kamala Harris owned a gun until this moment right now? For the first time ever, we have Donald Trump and Kamala Harris on the debate stage, which means we have me in a live forum debate watch party. Period! Does anyone remember what the question was? He literally doesn't give a fuck about JD Vance at all. Oh, I've never seen someone do that, like, literally ever. It wasn't what I expected at all. This is What the Fuck America. It's politics for cool people and culture for smart people. I'm your host, Grace Weinstein, and I'm here with Steve Morris, the Recount senior political producer, and we are going to break down what happened at the debate. But first, I thought 12 people would show up, and here we were, over capacity. The fire department is going to come. It's a fucking fire hazard. The whole thing's going to be shut down. I'm drinking my Jameson and ginger ale. And what can you do? That's what I thought it would be. Okay, so let's start with a quick vibe check. Did we get two candidates who did well, one who did well, or none who did well?
Wow, this feels like an SAT question. I think Kamala Harris did what she came there to do, which was recite every preparation talking point that they gave her, which came out very fluently, very well. And I don't think Donald Trump did what he came there to do. Tonight, you could clearly get the sense that his last answer, he was trying to cram in everything that he had been supposed to say for the entire previous debate, including, like, why haven't you achieved all this? What have you been doing the past 4 years? Attacks on Biden. And he did not do any of that prior.
So the first thing I want to ask you is about whether we need all of the things that we got. This episode was tariffs, taxes, trade, the triple T, as maybe Kamala HQ will brand it.
As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued
tariffs, like, I know that this is a central part of what they're talking about, but when you're trying to enter the homes of millions of Americans for one night and one night only, people aren't grasping what that looks like in practice. A lot of Americans care about those things in the economy. But when they talk about it at a high level on a debate stage, does it matter? Does it lose people? Do they gain anything from it?
Yeah, I mean, so, like, studies have shown that most Americans don't watch, the big preponderance of people watch the first, like, 30 minutes or so of a debate. So, like, typically politicians, when they prepare for debates, really focus on that first 30 minutes and are like, let me put in my best fucking performance for those first 30 and then whatever for the rest of it. I think it's a very good thing that they were talking about policy and that we weren't, resorting to talking points. I also think little tough love time. If you say that you care about politics, if you follow political news, if you call yourself a political junkie and you don't know how tariffs work, then what you're into is competition, and what you're into is a political version of the NFL. You're not actually into things that will make a difference in people's lives. So I think it was a good thing. I do think, did we get a hugely substantive conversation? Maybe not. I don't know. Did you feel like that was super substantive between the two of them?
Just saying, like, always I'm putting my everyman cap on when I'm in this room and going, I'm not necessarily sure that I know what they're saying about tariffs right now. I didn't necessarily gain anything from it. I'm glad that they did it. I do like to hear about their economic policy. But to lead the show with that, it's like, girl, you got to listen to whoever produces the Grammys and the Oscars. You pack the show. You pack the good shit at the beginning.
Okay, but alternative theory, you get your vegetables out of the way first, and then you get your dessert at the end.
Okay, fair enough. So in that meal prep that we're talking about, I'm looking at the stage tonight and going, we are looking at a woman talking about woman shit, for lack of a better term for that. I'm going, Kamala Harris is talking about women bleeding out maybe on a plane when they're going to deal with their abortion problems, and Donald Trump being pressed on whether he would deny or veto an abortion ban. Did that do anything for you? Because it did something for me as a woman to be able to speak to somebody, or to see somebody speaking to that.
So it's funny, there was one moment in the third debate, I want to say in 2016, in which Trump made this comment about they're ripping babies out of wombs. He was making the same late-term abortion argument that he made tonight. And Clinton made a comment saying that's wrong, that's incorrect. And I've known women who've gone through this kind of thing. And it was hailed and mentioned as a real, watershed moment for women in politics, that a woman could be up there talking about that. But I 100% agree with you that Kamala Harris did it far more effectively. And I think the abortion part of tonight was by far the most effective we saw her tonight. It was a really a pretty asymmetrical warfare going on there, I think.
Which was funny because he typically is able to cop to something. He can meet somebody where they are on their criticism of him. And to watch a woman who does not have biological children of her own but has had a hand in the raising of other children speak to so effectively the emotional trials and tribulations of women who go through these things as a direct result. And I kept writing this in my notes, she's branding these things, the Trump abortion bans. She's putting his name and assigning his name to all of these things, which I think if that ends up catching, not all of them will catch, but she's hoping that she'll float 10 to 20 of them and 7 will catch, and maybe the Trump abortion bans will. And she was able to speak to that so effectively and so emotionally. I was just very kind of caught off guard in that moment. It was it was very refreshing for me. Something I want to talk about that she brought up was she accused him directly, and there was many a finger point in this debate, which I'm sure people will have many feelings about. She said, you are running on a problem instead of fixing a problem. To me, I'm sitting there, I go, is that unique to him, though? Isn't that what every politician does? I was wondering if you could give an example of a Democrat doing that in any way.
Well, I mean, the common leftist, hyper-progressive criticism often of Democrats is that they want to keep Roe overturned so that they can keep running on it, whatever, or they don't want to actually deliver health care so they can keep running on it, whatever. I think that there's a lot of variation in this kind of thing, right? Really, you only give up issues when they stop becoming popular to talk about, right? Yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting moment. I thought, what did you take away from that moment?
I was just I was not compelled. It was that's what politicians do. And I think that's a problem. I wish more politicians were no, we will solve the problem. You should be willing to lose your job. I think as a public servant, that's something that should be on the table perpetually. One of the other things that came up around her that one of the moderators said, and we'll talk about their role in all of this in a second, was they said, Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, you've changed your mind a lot. Can you speak to why that is? To me, I was also listening, and I was like, isn't that kind of what they're supposed to do, too? Isn't that what people are supposed to do, too? Have we lost that that's part of this process?
Yeah, I mean, you take in new information and you change your mind. That's a mark of being smart and open-minded, right? Of course, the, rejoinder to that is there isn't really any new information about fracking in 2024 versus 2019, right? We know the exact same about its environmental impacts, its health impacts, the amount of jobs it depends on, whatever. Of course, the other thing is Donald Trump has changed his positions a million times on everything. I do think it's really funny though that what that showed to me is it used to be in politics that the worst thing you could be was a flip-flopper. That was the worst thing you could be labeled. And now it's kind of both parties are yeah, who the fuck cares?
It's depends on what side of the bed that you wake up on and how your Dunkin' coffee is that day, right?
It's exactly how I thought of it.
I do want to talk a little bit about moderator intervention. There are these follow-up questions that have not been happening in other debates, and it is quite refreshing. Thank you, ABC. People's biggest issues with the debates thus far, not just in 2024, in 2020, 2016, was that moderators weren't intervening in a meaningful way when Donald Trump is, and it is a fact to say, talking bullshit. When he's just saying things that are not true. They don't quite know how to intervene with him. David Muir and Lindsay Davis of ABC News, you guys really put on your battle armor today and said, let us just try it out. Let us walk into the front lines of the fire coming at us today. Do you think that changed the vibe? Do you think that made him act differently? Do you think we got something that we were missing?
Yeah, I think it was really important. I mean, certainly important to the way it shook out. I think the fact-checking thing is it is more difficult than people often make it seem, but it is also simpler in some ways, which is how I am both sidesing centrist right here. But I think what I admire them for doing very well is they stated the facts, they fact-checked, but they did not allow themselves to get emotionally pulled into an exchange, which is something that I think journalism has struggled so much with since Donald Trump came to office. And I think what Davis and Muir both did was they said, we're not characters in this. We're just going to be the bumpers, like when you're playing bowling with bumpers. We're not going to make ourselves the ball in it in either way. And I think they did a great job.
Just to quote Luann de Lesseps from Real Housewives of New York, money can't buy you class. But these two moderators had fucking class tonight. They were able to intervene when they were needed and in a way that was important to the American people. And honestly, they didn't let us down. I was like, this is very impressive to me. The last thing I want to say is there were two Starks side by sides. We had her saying, let me tell you, I have plans. I have plans. I'm plotting. I'm out here plotting. And he was over here saying, well, I have concepts of plans, which, dear reader, is not the same thing, in case you haven't noticed. Is that like a remarkable difference to you? Is that something that he should go home and lose sleep over?
Well, I'll let you in on a little secret. In my talking to a lot of folks within Democratic politics, what they've told me repeatedly is that what they hear in their focus groups, what they hear in their polling behind the scenes, is that people repeatedly say, I don't know who she is, I don't know what she stands for. And so the question there that I think she was trying to answer with the I have plans thing is, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. This is what I will do if I'm president. I don't think that there's any excuse for any campaign manager to let their candidate go out and say, I have concepts of plans, particularly if they were the incumbent president. And healthcare obviously has been very difficult for him. But yeah, I mean, not a great split screen from a political perspective to have that be the takeaway, right?
No, I literally can't wait to come into work sometime and be like, I have a concept of a plan.
Tell your landlord, I have a concept of a check for you. We're still working out a couple kinks, but I have the idea of paying my rent this month. Yeah.
You just have to close your eyes and believe it. The last question, here's our wrap up. Yeah. She said at the end,
the only thing I ever ask them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone
a lot of people asking me that
too. Not putting themselves first.
I don't ask my clients when I was a prosecutor, if you were a Republican, if you were a Democrat. I ask them, are you okay? So are you okay?
No. Are you okay?
Yes! I'm actually doing so good. Wow. You know this. My therapist was like, let's meet every month instead of every 2 weeks. And I was like, bet. I've graduated. So I'm doing okay. Speak for yourself.
Well, I have been considering going to 2 times a week. So we've talked about this. We are always on opposite trajectories. So only one of us can do okay while the other is not.
And that's the true definition of bi-weekly, is what you would say. Ask a lawyer that you know. They'll tell you that it's legally confusing. This show is not confusing. It's designed to be simple. It's bringing you politics every other week right here on YouTube, over on Snapchat. Make sure you like and subscribe.